Grace you with the Messiah. Choose life. So you when you see me live.
The amazing thing about Passover is that Passover actually sets your clock with God's timing. That's right. Passover is 14 days in the first month according to the Bible. So here's how you follow Passover. Come with me and join the story. We just went through the plagues, the last segment. Let's go ahead to what we're supposed to do in our households. Now, this is in Exodus 12:12. Now Adonai spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, This month will mark the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year for you. Tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one lamb for the household. That's Exodus 12:1-3. To go on to 12-14. For I will go through the land of Egypt on that night and strike down every firstborn, both man and animals, and I will execute judgments against all the gods of Egypt. Did you notice that all the plagues had to do with one of the gods they worshipped? The Nile god, right? The cattle god. It's really interesting if you learn about it. I am Adonai. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are. When I see the blood, I will pass over you. So there will be no plague among you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day is to be a memorial for you. You are to keep it as a feast to Adonai. Throughout your generations, you are to keep it as an eternal ordinance. Did you know that Jewish people have been celebrating Passover year after year after year? On again, off again, with God, and when they come back to God for 3,400 years. This is what sets the Jewish people apart, and we all get grafted in to the olive tree. These are the things you're supposed to eat on Passover. Passover lamb, unleavened bread, and bitter herbs. Then many peoples will go and say, Come, let us go up to the mountain of Adonai, to the house of the God of Jacob. Then he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For Torah, the law, will go forth from Zion, and the word of Adonai from Jerusalem. That's from Isaiah 2. Do you realize that Isaiah wrote about that when they weren't even allowed to celebrate Passover? But he's telling them to return to the law, return to the law. When we return to Passover, we're returning to God as a nation. The nation, right? Not just the people of Israel, all of the children of Israel. That includes you and me. Let's go back to our story. We were at Exodus 12. Now we're in 25-27. When you come into the land which Adonai will give you as he has promised, you are to keep this ceremony. Now when it happens that your children ask you, What does this ceremony mean to you? You are to say, It is the sacrifice of Adonai's Passover, because he passed over the houses of Bnei Israel in Egypt, the children of Israel in Egypt, when he struck down the Egyptians but spared our households. So the people bowed their heads and worshipped. So teach your children. That's what it says on the doorposts of our house. Do you realize that of all the things we could put on the doorposts of our house, since we don't keep sacrificing lambs and putting blood on the doorposts of our house, we put the command to teach our children inside this little scroll and attach it to the door. Because teaching your children is what from generation to generation means. Continue the story with me. Now we're in Exodus 13:8-9. You are to tell your son on that day, It is because of what Adonai did for me when I came out of Egypt. So it will be like a sign on your hand and a reminder between your eyes, so that the Torah of Adonai may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand, Adonai has brought you out of Egypt. Do you know that Jewish people actually take that same scroll about teaching your children and they bind it in front of their eyes and they bind it to their right wrist? Let's move on. You know this part of the story, don't you? This is the best part that everybody knows. There's a great picture of this in our Bible. This is the children of Israel crossing through the Reed Sea. And this is them walking through with the water on walls. The water became walls that they walked through on dry land. It says in Exodus 13:8-9, You are to tell your son on that day, saying, It is because of what Adonai did for me when I came out of Egypt. So it will be like a sign in your hand and a reminder between your eyes, so that the Torah of Adonai may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Adonai has brought you out of Egypt. Then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. Adonai drove the sea back with a strong east wind throughout the night, and turned the sea into dry land. So the waters were divided. Then Bnei Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, while the waters were like walls to them on their right and on their left. The nation of Israel was birthed through water. Pretty cool, huh? If we go on to Exodus 15, you really should read this whole story in your Bible with your kids. It's very fun. And we've got the time to do it right now this season. God made a way for us to tell this to our children. Moses in Exodus 15. Then Moses and Bnei Israel sang this song to Adonai. Should I do it? I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously, the horse and the rider thrown into the sea. Dum, dum. I will sing unto the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously, the horse and the rider thrown into the sea. My Lord, my God, my strength, my song, now he is my victory. That's the way we should rejoice. We come through the waters and we've been birthed as a nation. This is the time we're to celebrate because we've been set free to worship Adonai. As we move through our Passover Seder, this is what most people need to be reminded of. This is when God gave us the laws that would govern his people, his kingdom of priests. This is what makes us a holy nation. These are the 10 commandments. The Jewish people call them the 10 words. So I'm going to read them to you, and I encourage you to read them and talk about them with your children. You can find them in Exodus 20, verses 1 through 15, and then we'll be done for today. Then God spoke all these words, saying, I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. Do not make for yourself a graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above or on the earth below or in the water under the earth. Do not bow down to them. Do not let anyone make you serve them. For I, Adonai your God, am a jealous God, bringing the iniquity of the fathers upon the children to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to the thousands of generations of those who love me and keep my mitzvot. You must not take the name of Adonai your God in vain, for Adonai will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. Number 4, remember your Shabbat to keep it holy. You are to work 6 days and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Shabbat to Adonai your God. In it you shall do no work, not you, nor your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your cattle, nor your outsider that is within your gates. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested on the 7th day. Thus Adonai blessed Yom Shabbat, the day of the Sabbath, and made it holy. Next, honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long upon the land, which Adonai your God is giving you. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Do not covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, his maidservant, his manservant, his ox, his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. That is the 10 commandments. The Passover is when we remind our children. If you don't take another time this year to sit down with your children and go over the 10 commandments, realize God made a day on the calendar for you to do it. Just remember it's his calendar, so do it. And we'll see you tomorrow.
I call heaven and earth to witness against you today. That I've set before you life and death, blessings and curses. So what choice will you make? For the wages of sin is death, but the